right. Well, excellent. I'm so happy to have you here, Tim. Thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Marcus. Lovely to be here. Thanks for asking me.
You're welcome. You're welcome, man. And bit of a scoop for me to get you on. I mean, I know you've been on TV loads and you've done loads of stuff around Brighton.
A scoop.
It is a scoop.
That's nice. I know
it is a scoop.
referred to as a scoop.
Yeah, a scoop. Yeah. So, well, basically, I guess you're from North London.
I'm from North London originally. I was born in Islington, just off of Old Street, and then moved down to Brighton 23 years ago. My son was 5 at the time. My daughter was 1. I was living in Hackney, and it was a different Hackney to the Hackney that is today. It's now Hackney now. Dalston is all coffee shops and yoga studios. It wasn't like that back in the day. And I looked around. I thought, well, I don't really want to bring my kids up. I could see my son. I've fast forwarded. I thought, what's he going to be doing when he's in his teens? He's just going to get in trouble. And we came down to Brighton on a day trip, and we just fell in love with it. And 3 months later, we were here, and and my kids were brought up here, and I've grown the businesses here, and I've got into recovery here, and Brighton has been very, very kind to me. And I still love being. I still feel like I'm on holiday. I live on the seafront. I'm really lucky. I live on the seafront. And I go in the sea every day with my wife, no matter what the weather.
Are you one of these all year rounders?
We are.
Oh, yeah.
We are. And as long as it's safe to get in, sometimes it's not quite safe to get in. But every morning we wake up, we run a hot bath, and we have a coffee, and we go run across the road, jump in the sea. It's getting a bit short, and we're in for about 10 minutes today. It's getting a bit colder now. And then we get in the bath and we chat, and we have a lovely start to our day pretty much every day. So I'm very grateful for that.
Have you always been a businessman, like before you came to Brighton?
Yeah, I have. I mean, back in the day, the reason why I'm in the industry I'm in the adult industry, as you know, I own sex shops and
that's disgusting.
I know, it's awful, isn't it? And BDSM dungeons. So back in the day, I worked in and around Soho, and within the adult industry. Then when it was a little bit Wild West, to say the least, it wasn't what it is today. There were quite a few shady characters, me included, probably, and but it was great fun. And there was at that time a lot of the stuff was illegal. Pornography wasn't made legal in the UK. I think about 22 years ago, something like that.
Not that long ago.
So we were in the black market area back in the day, and then when the legalities changed and they made it legal, they decided to actually have sex shop licenses, where you had to have a license, a bit like an alcohol license, where you could actually buy legal porn. And that was a bit of a game changer for everyone in the industry, and that was before the tube sites, the Pornhubs and all that started out. But we still sell some, and but the sex toy industry is huge now. So it shifted from the
DVDs,
VHS tapes actually when I started to the DVD. It shifted into sex toys, and so we're really happy with that.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, because back in the days, it was all VHS tapes, and when they had tape shops, it'd be a special 18 section. And you could go and get your Buttman, or
well, in the porn industry in America, in fact, the porn industry steered from Beta Max to VHS.
Wow!
So the American porn industry decided they chose VHS instead of Betamax, and that finished off Betamax and made VHS the format that everyone used, and that was decided by the American porn industry. They kind of buried Betamax. Do you remember Betamax?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
funny little
that
tape.
was the funny tape, wasn't it?
Yeah, smaller tape.
But I heard the porn industry in the States is bigger than the normal film industry. It's huge.
It's
like
huge.
the porn awards are like in Las Vegas.
It's huge.
It's not undercover dark stuff.
It's
huge.
all.
Yeah, I'm all for empowering women, and and women doing. Being able to act, or men or anyone, if we're adults, you do.
Well, it depends on what kind. I mean, not necessarily. It's not all necessarily empowering women, but there are certainly companies now that are female owned
and
directed and ethical. And so I think that is a really good thing. They've got producers like Erica Lust, who's based in Barcelona, who makes real ethical female focused adult movies, which I think is a really good
When you
thing.
say ethical, how would you make an ethical adult
I think
film?
it's more like, I mean, if you look at most adult movies, they kind of are a little bit male-led.
Male satisfaction.
Male-centered.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff can be quite aggressive. And so I've got various thoughts about the industry as a whole. I think we need some kind of age verification system in place to protect children.
Definitely.
And when I say children, anyone under the age of 18. And I think the fact that, for instance, my shops have been licensed for many years.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to allow anyone in those shops if they're under the age of 18. If they look under the age of 18, we'll ID them. Yeah. And the fact that someone, a 12 or 13-year-old boy can be at home and he can click his computer, two clicks, and he's watching hardcore pornography, I think is outrageous.
It is shocking.
And I think that they should protect children from that.
How do you draw the line, though? Because I agree with you 100%, and that was a real worry when my kids were growing up, is literally a couple of clicks and you've got something in your face that they can't erase and unthink. But at the same time, as adults, we should be able to access what we want within reason. Yeah.
So you should have some kind of gateway to be able to do that. Yeah. And the age verification thing, which has been knocking around for years, they were going to try and do it here in the UK. David Cameron really tried to steer that. Yeah. And the problem with it is the real problem is the fact that the only way you're going to really do it is by some kind of credit card or ID upload. Yeah. And who is going to hold that data? That's the problem. It's sensitive.
Very sensitive.
It's sensitive data. Yeah. And funny enough, the leaders at the time that were going to get that contract from the government was a company called Mindgeek, and Mindgeek owned Pornhub. Oh, wow. So that was it was like, well, hang on a minute. Yeah. So it's like the people that actually are the culprits of this stuff, putting it out online, are going to be the people that are going to have all this data of people that watch this stuff. So it was the data was the problem. So I still don't, and they're still talking about it in America now. They've still not got it through properly in America. Countries in Europe are talking about some kind of age verification, but I think it.
But what about censorship? I mean, so let's say you pass the age verification. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that. As someone who's been in the industry for years, I know this isn't a show about sex, but
it looks like it's going that way.
It is. Sorry, mate.
It's all right. I don't mind.
Yeah. But I'm just curious what
censorship
your thoughts.
Regarding the content that is made available.
Yeah, I mean, do you think the government should be able to say what they class as safe porn, or because some people are into alternative stuff, dungeon stuff, BDSM,
absolutely. Well, that's interesting because in fact the products that we sell, the DVDs that we sell in our licensed shops, have gone through a process of censorship, and that is done by the British Board of Film.
Do they do porno?
So exactly like you'd see any other movie when you see an 18 rated, it goes through the BBFC, and they allow certain things and not certain things. Yeah. So the films that we sell have been censored and edited. Yeah. And that has an R18 classification, which is restricted 18, which means you can only buy that in a licensed sex shop.
Okay.
So that's it. So we sell the R18 product. Obviously online is a different thing. There is no censorship online. And in fact that the companies like Mindgeek, who own Pornhub, are supposed to monitor and moderate their content. And in fact, when that all came out about the uploaded product stuff that's on Pornhub, that's the revenge porn, some of the revenge porn was getting uploaded and all that. So they supposed to have had these moderators in Pornhub, and they had, I think it was something like 30 people that worked at Mindgeek that were moderating these thousands and thousands of uploads. They just couldn't do it. No. And in fact, it turned out that they were actually watching it without the sound on and on fast forward. So it was ridiculous.
What kind of
so they're supposed to moderate it, but they don't moderate it until someone flags it up that that person looks a little bit underage. And that was the problem with a lot of the online tube sites, is you get a lot of underage content being uploaded. But it's
I didn't realise people upload stuff to that.
You can upload your own content.
I didn't realise that.
Can. They have their own kind of content people that actually have their own stuff on there. Wow. So who checks that? Yeah. Who checks the verification of that? So it's a minefield.
It is.
It's a minefield.
Well, that was an interesting start to our chat. Thanks, Tim. I knew you'd be a great guest. So let's talk about the recovery side of it, of things. I mean, now obviously you've had a journey.
Yes.
And I see a guy who's very successful in front of me.
Yeah.
involved in many businesses and, living a clean and sober life. Yeah. But it probably wasn't always that way.
It wasn't, no. Yeah. For me, I hear people talk about their drinking careers and their drug taking and all that sort of thing. And some people I hear in recovery, in meetings, whether it be a Cocaine Anonymous meeting or an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, that share, everyone's journey is different. And we all get to a place of surrender, I guess, that we have a problem. Nowadays, obviously, you can see there is all these sober curious, sobriety now. I think the thing about it is you don't have to be an alcoholic or an addict to be clean and sober. Yeah. Now people are using it as a lifestyle choice. It's That's much true. More of a cooler kind of thing to
it's quite rock and roll because it's alternative.
It's the new rock and roll. Getting in bed at 10 o'clock at night is the new rock and roll, even for quite young people. So for me, I didn't, my teenage years were I didn't drink or use any drugs. My drinking career started actually when I was in my early 20s. I drank moderately, Marcus. I wasn't one of those, I hear people share about, they had a bottle of cider when they were 12 years old in the local park and went into an immediate blackout. Yeah. That wasn't my experience. My experience was I drank moderately in my early 20s when I was living in London. I was always a kind of person that was going out to clubs but I was very social. I was a very sociable drinker. So that was in my early 20s. And then what happened to me was in my mid-20s, I discovered cocaine. And, someone offered me, I was in Stringfellas at the time in the early 80s. Early 80s. And someone said, I've got some cocaine. I was like, okay, wow, what's that? And when I took that, I realised that, in fact, I could drink a lot more. Yeah. And I used to stay up much longer, and normally, what I would do is I'd drink a couple of drinks, I'd get a bit drunk. I didn't really like being drunk, and I'd kind of stop. But obviously, I don't know whether you know or not, I'm sure you do, that if you're drinking and you take some cocaine, it sobers you up, and you can drink for much more and for much longer. Yeah. And so I think what happened was with my drug use, it kind of tipped me over the edge into alcoholic drinking. But even then I was still quite a party person, I would still stay up all night and go to clubs and bars and
still run your business.
Kind of. Kind of. I mean, I think, I started ending up, around people's kitchen tables at 5 o'clock in the morning, but still having fun. And, but it got kind of, it started really getting in the way of my life, and I realised that it kind of like, I wasn't going to really succeed in anything that I was going to try to do. I'd start things, I'd get things going, I'd never really get them to any decent place. I'd kind of give up halfway through. And obviously if you're drinking and you're out and partying every night, you're waking up late the next day, for me, I was kind of full of fear and anxiety. The next day I'd wake up, like, oh my God, I've done it again. Try to fumble through my day. And what happened, a defining moment for me was when I was 35, and my then partner, I was living in King's Cross at the time, my then partner said she was pregnant. Oh, wow. And I was like, well, okay, that's good. And I was still really on it all the time. We were both party people, me and my partner. And I was like, right, okay. And she was a few months pregnant. So I decided that, when she was 6 months pregnant, I said, I'm going to go into recovery. And I did. And that was the define. I realised that I couldn't be a father.
It was you couldn't go both.
I couldn't go both ways. And it was a little bit of a bumpy start. It didn't, I didn't stay sober for all the time. I picked up a few times. But my son, I always say to my son that he saved my life. Wow. By him coming along, because I just thought I cannot be this person who drinks and uses drugs all the time and be a dad. Yeah. And it was kind of a defining moment for me.
Wonderful. A lot of people don't get that strength.
No.
From
No.
Wow.
I just didn't want to be. I didn't want to be a drunk dad.
Be that guy.
I didn't want to be that guy. He didn't ask to be born. No. And he certainly didn't ask to be born with a drunk dad. Yeah. And so that was a defining moment for me. Wow. And and I'd had some quite bad relationships due to my drinking and drug taking.
Bad decisions.
Great relationships that were ruined by me because you know what it's like if you're out drinking. You make bad choices, you disappear. You know, your phone goes off, you don't pick up the phone, you disappear all night. Your partner's waiting for you to come home. You know, you go, I'll be home at 9 o'clock in the evening. You turn up at 9 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't bode well for a good, healthy relationship. You know, and so for me, the recovery for me has been the best thing I've ever done in my life. By far. You know, by far. I can't imagine where I would be today. I probably wouldn't be here, Marcus.
Really?
You know, I don't think so. I mean, I think you know, I had friends who I drank and used with who are no longer here. You know, who had heart attacks and died, or accidents or fights, or ended up in prison, or all drink and drug related. And I was going that way. I don't think I would have carried on. I think something like that would have happened to me. You know?
That's amazing that you found that strength and, you know, made the change and like you said, brought your family down to Brighton. Let's make a new start. And then how did you? Because you know, not everyone watching will know that you've got several sex shops.
Yes.
And you know how well. Obviously, you've been in that industry for a while.
Yeah.
And I mean, what made you decide to open down here? Because I think at one time they were very strict with the laws.
They were. Yeah. So what happened is that when I moved down here, at that point there was one sex shop here, and that was by Brighton Station. And I moved here and I kind of thought, right, you know, I was still working up in London and I was still commuting at the time. And I was like, you know, I've moved down to Brighton, but then I was just in my car driving back. It just wasn't the kind of lifestyle that my then partner was on the beach with my kids in the summer. I was still stuck on the M25. I'm like, what have I done here, you know? So I looked at it and I thought, well, let's open a shop in Brighton. So I looked at where the existing shop was, which was just by Brighton Station, where one of my shops is now.
Is it Lust?
That's Taboo by Brighton Station. So I looked at it, and there was this old school private sex shop that was in Surrey Street, and it was licensed because obviously they'd introduced this licensing policy. So I looked at the licensing policy, and in Brighton Council at that time, their licensing policy said that no new license would be issued within a 2-mile radius of an existing license.
Okay.
But there was this one by Brighton Station. It said a similar type of establishment. So I looked at it and I got the map and I saw where the private shop was by Brighton Station, and I drew this 2-mile radius. Well, I was just outside of Brighton. It was just like, there's no way a shop would work there. But it said in the licensing policy, it said a similar type of establishment. So I thought, well, we're going to be a different type of establishment. We're not similar to this old school, nasty, tacky sex shop. And I sort of presented this to the licensing committee at Brighton Council, and I said, look, you know, it's
your place is quite classy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a stylish boutique. It was female staffed. And I said, I need to prove to Brighton Council that we are not a similar type of establishment to this one that's already there. And I, you know, like, for instance, like licenses for pubs. You know, every pub has an alcohol license. There are many different types of pubs that have different type, you know, same license, different type of pub. So I compared the Grand Hotel. I said, well, the Grand Hotel has got a license to sell alcohol, but so has a pub in Malscombe. You know, so, you know, same license, but very different establishments. So we sat with the council and we did this presentation to the licensing committee. And I said, look, we are different. We are not the same as this. Now, obviously, from a business perspective, I wanted to be really close to that existing shop because I knew that there was a footfall of people going to that shop. And I wanted to ride on the back of that. And thankfully, the licensing committee, in fact, they had a split decision of whether they were going to issue me with a license, and the chair of the committee went in our favour. So one person decided that. One person decided that. And because of that, they had to change the policy, the licensing policy. Because the 2-mile radius didn't exist anymore. So they actually had to change the policy because of it.
They actually got policy changed.
They had to policy change the sex shop licensing in Brighton.
That's impressive.
And so that shop now by Brighton Station, the old one is now gone. That closed up 3 years ago.
It was horrible in there.
It was very nice. Do you know?
That's the first one.
Did you go in there,
A friend of mine went in there when he was 18.
It was an really old school sex shop. And that shop has now gone, and we're the only one there now, licensed sex shop there. So it's been a bit of a journey, but we've been there 20 years this year.
Have you got one in Hove as well, Black Chinton Road?
The Hove shop we had, we actually did not reopen that until after lockdown. We decided that we looked at it, and you know what, Marcus, up until the lockdown happened, I was a workaholic. And I don't know whether, because I'm an addict, right? I'm an alcoholic. Anything that I can get my teeth stuck into, I do to an extreme. And so I was a workaholic. And what I realised that when we went into lockdown, everything shut. And I couldn't work anymore. It was like, that's it. So, but I realised after a couple of weeks that I actually really liked doing fuck all. Wow. I didn't think I did, but I actually did. And I was like, I actually quite like this. So I looked at it all and I thought, well, if we don't reopen the Hove shop, I wouldn't have to go back and physically work in the shops anymore. And neither would my wife. And everyone could keep their jobs. So I decided not to reopen that after lockdown.
How would they keep their jobs?
Well, because it was a matter of hours of staffing.
Oh, I see.
And
so
all that.
They could,
So I was like, well, we can just drop that shop out. No one is going to lose anything. It's just me and my wife won't have to physically work in the shops anymore. I was like, well, that's perfect. So we never reopened it. And we just concentrated on the ones in Brighton. We have my wife and I have a thing that we work on, is that if we can't walk to one of our businesses within 15 minutes, we don't do it.
I love that.
So it's like, if it's longer than a 15-minute walk, we don't get involved. And just to, I think what's taught me,
quality of life, isn't it?
Quality of life. And I think that recovery has taught me that over the years, that it's about the quality of my life and peace of mind. And we've got a thing where we don't set an alarm now. So wonderful. We wake up naturally. Anyone knows that if they try and call me before midday, generally I'm not going to answer the phone. And I don't sleep. My phone is in another room. And I don't. At one point, Marcus, before lockdown, I'd have my phone next to me in the bedroom. If I woke up in the middle of the night, I'd check my emails. What is that about? What is going to be at 3 o'clock in the morning that needs me to read my emails and answer at 3 o'clock in the morning?
We've become a slave to our digital
devices, I'm a slave to, and what the thing about being a workaholic is that I used to think, oh my God, being a workaholic, I'd be really successful. What, for me, workaholism was the fact that I created unnecessary work for myself, really stupid stuff. So I felt busy.
Wow.
So if I felt busy during the day. I haven't
heard that before. That's interesting.
If I felt busy during the day, it kind of validated.
You felt like you achieved something.
I was achieving something. Even though I was doing these most ridiculous tasks that didn't need doing. Certainly not that day and certainly not by me, but I would create work for myself. And so it's this kind of like thinking, I'm so busy. Oh my God, I'm this. I've got to do that. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. When in fact, when lockdown happened, all that stopped. And I realised what I'd been doing. And so now I kind of work smart.
So you had a time, in that lockdown gave everyone a chance to reevaluate, didn't it? Some people not through choice, but, it's, it must have been quite...
It was very good for me. I mean, I know it wasn't for a lot of people, but for me on a personal level, lockdown really kind of changed a lot of the way I was operating on a daily basis. And it's been life-changing for me,
Well, we'll carry on with that in a sec, but also you part of bringing CA to Brighton back in the early days.
Kind of. I mean, at the time, yes. I mean, at the time, CA, my then sponsor, Kevin R, had been out to America, and he'd been to a few CA meetings. And at the time, he was living in Brighton, and he came back and he went, I've been to CA. It's incredible. And we understood about the history of, and at the time, people, as you well know, that in Alcoholics Anonymous were sharing about cocaine use, and the old timers, the old alkies in AA didn't like us sharing about cocaine. And I did get that. It was like, this is Alcoholics Anonymous.
We don't do drugs. We just drink alcohol.
We don't do drugs here. I'm doing a Wee John impression. I don't know if you know Wee John. I went into a bit of Wee John there, but it was like and I got it. It was like this is, and I remember getting pulled up by old timers in AA, going, you shouldn't really talk about cocaine the way you do. This is Alcoholics Anonymous, and I was like, okay, all right, but it is part of my story.
But alcohol is a drug. They should realize it.
Do you know how CA came about in America? Do you know about the history of that with Johnny Spiegel and the guys in LA?
Very light history.
So what happened in LA is the same thing happened in the 80s. That when cocaine was rife in America, and people were then going into recovery in LA and other places, and they were sharing about cocaine in AA, and they were made to feel like they couldn't do that. So Johnny Spiegel and another guy, I can't remember the guy, they went, well, actually, we should start our own fellowship that's just about cocaine, because they felt alienated in AA and sharing about it. So that's how it came about.
Wow.
And and that's why they
also accept anyone.
Exactly. So that's why the step one is cocaine and all mind-altering substances, because they didn't want to have other people feel the way they did in AA. So Kevin had been out to the States. He'd been to some CA meetings. He came over. He started one or two of them. I started the Friday night Absolute Beginners at Upper North Street, and I started the Gratitude Sunday morning CA meeting, which is still going strong. And that must have been 18.
I guess 50, 60 people each week.
It's packed, isn't it, every Sunday morning. So I started a couple of them as well. And it was, we were going to CA meetings at the time in the Crypt in Kemptown. I don't know if you know that thing. Myself, Kevin. There was 2 or 3 of us there.
Yeah.
There was literally a handful of people coming over.
Sometimes. Room was smaller than this, wasn't it?
Yeah, literally. And then slowly people realised that, some people moved over from AA to CA because they also had a big cocaine story as part of their journey.
But suppressed it in AA.
Couldn't share about it, wanted to share about it. A couple of people did CA and AA. So if you want to talk about cocaine, go to Cocaine Anonymous. If you want to talk about alcohol, go to AA. Yeah. But I'm noticing now that people that are coming in, newcomers that are coming into AA, I mean, 99.9% of them have other drug use. Pretty much. Show me anyone now that has got an alcohol problem that hasn't used other mind-altering substances with that alcohol.
Very unlikely, isn't it?
It's very unlikely. It's rare. When I speak to newcomers, I go, "Do you use cocaine?" They go, "Oh yeah." Rarely they go, "Oh no, I wouldn't touch that."
I'm just drunk.
I just drink. And very few people just drink nowadays that are coming into recovery. And I think a lot of the time cocaine really does, push us into that rock bottom quicker. I think that's what happened to me. I think my drinking was, I was a heavy drinker. I was a heavy drinker, but cocaine definitely escalated my drinking and put me into my rock bottom faster. I think I would have got there eventually.
But it would have been a slow, painful...
It would have been a slower, painful process. But cocaine just was like putting petrol on the fire with me, and it escalated my drinking, and it got me to a rock bottom quicker.
And that was in the 80s, right?
That was in the 80s.
That's when it was probably proper.
It was the proper gear, Marcus, in the 80s. None of this repressed Novocaine, whatever they use now. Jeez. But it was. It was the proper gear. But I think,
And is out of interest, is your family, do they drink? Or do you have drink around you?
My wife drinks moderately. No, not really.
I don't mean heavy drinkers, but
my son likes to drink, but he's,
So you're not like an evangelist. No alcohol in this house.
Do you know what? And my kids have grown up around me in recovery. And so they have been to meetings with me. So they've grown up around the culture and the language around drinking. My daughter is quite a moderate drinker. My son probably a bit more of a heavier drinker. But I've said to my boy, I've gone, look, he's 29 now. I've gone, he goes on, he's 29-year-old guy living in London. What's not to like? And but I always say to him, if the wheels start to wobble off a little bit, then put the brakes on. And he does.
Yeah, that's good.
It's really annoying. I wish I could have done that.
It's great that you can have that conversation with him.
Yeah, and I go to him you can see what happened to me. Trust me. And I was talking to my wife about it this morning. And looking at my son at 29 and myself at 29, we're very different animals. He doesn't do any drugs. He likes to drink. If he has a few days on it, he'll be in the gym on the Monday. I never did that. He'll really pull himself together, eat healthy, go to the gym, and get himself back on track again. So but I think, like I say, they've grown up with the language of recovery in our house.
That's wonderful, and also grown up around the sex stuff as well.
They have grown up around
because there's a whole TV show about your life, man. That was amazing.
That was fun.
How did that come about?
Funny enough, that actually came out of recovery, believe it or not. So I was going to one of my regular AA meetings and sharing about my stuff, and sometimes I'll talk about my business, and sometimes I'll talk about my kids and my wife and my ex-partner and us working together and all that. And this guy came up to me at the end of the meeting and said, "Do you know what?" He said, "I think your story is really interesting. My wife runs a TV production company. I think there's a show in this." I was like, "What, really?"
Whoa.
He went, "I think there's a show in this." So they came down a couple of years before we actually filmed the real show.
Yeah.
And they came down and did like a day taster. They filmed trying to get the concept of it right. And Channel 4 at the time didn't pick that up. And then a couple of years later, I got a call and they went, Channel 4 are interested again. They want to do the show. And we was like, okay, great. And so it actually came out of recovery.
That's amazing.
That's incredible, isn't it?
That is an incredible story.
We filmed the first show, which went out on Channel 4. Really, really successful. We had, I think it was 2.5, 3 million viewers on the first time it went out.
Wow.
We were supposed to film the second one on the week we went into lockdown.
Oh,
so we were due to start filming on the Monday, and the crew were coming down, and we went into lockdown on the Tuesday. So the second one was never filmed. Oh. But what happened is that Channel 4 had the first one and they just repeated it over and over again. So we kind of got the benefit of it without having to do it. Do you know what, Marcus? It was a stressful process to do that.
Because they're following you around all the time.
They're following you around all the time. It's really stressful. Yeah. So they were with us for 3 months.
3 months?
3 months.
Wow, that's hard going.
Every day.
Yeah.
We did a crazy, I think we did 97 hours of filming in that time. You know, when you're going into work every day and you've got a film crew there and they mic you up the moment you walk into work.
You might be having a crap day and you're just like, I can't be dealing
with this. And you're so on high alert. Because I remember my son, who was in the show as well, my son was like really nervous about it. And he was like, you know, they're going to make us look like a certain word he used. I was like, they won't. Don't worry, but just be careful about what you say.
Yeah.
And what they do, they have a concept in reality television, which they talk about. And when they talk about people going over the fence, and they talk about they're over the fence, means that they forget about the cameras.
Oh, right. Okay.
They forget about the microphones. That people start to relax. And that's when they get the good stuff. The good stuff, where you say things maybe you shouldn't have said. You're relaxed and you just say things that you regret saying. But you know what? When I sat with the production company and the director and the producer, I spoke to them and I said, look, you know, we're going to do this. You know, please be kind to us, you know. And the director, Matt David, at the time, who was a beautiful guy, I really trusted him.
Yeah,
that he wouldn't.
Because there's a lot of trust there. Yeah. They could turn you out, make you out to be a real pervy family.
I tell you what, it all happens in the edit. Yeah. You know, it really does. You can film hours of stuff. They can edit it down to whatever they want it to be. And I trusted Matt David, and he said, I won't, don't worry. Yeah. And I'd seen a couple of his other things that he'd done that I really liked. And I thought, we can trust this guy. So we did like 3 months of filming, and it took its toll on all of us. I think at the end of it, we were really pleased that we came to the end of it.
Did they remunerate you for it?
Sorry?
Did you get paid to do it?
No, we didn't.
Okay.
No, we didn't.
Wow.
And people think, well, we got paid for it. We did. I was like, at the time, I was like, well, we should have a contract. We should have this. And then my wife said to me, she went, you know, do you realise what this will do for the business?
It's the publicity.
Do you realise?
You couldn't pay for that.
You want to get paid and have this massive advert on Channel 4.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what it will do for the business? And I was like, okay, I'll go with
you
that.
You literally couldn't afford an advert that long.
You couldn't afford an advert like that. And, you know, and when we first saw it, and, you know, the first time it went out on Channel 4, and one of our online competitors actually had an advert in our commercial break.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
They paid a lot of money for it. And I thought, well, you've just paid for 60 seconds.
Yeah.
I've got an hour.
Yeah.
You know?
So,
that. Like, you know? Yeah. And then they repeated it again and again and again and again. It went on catch up for a year or two. It's just come off of catch up, which I'm kind of pleased about. It's kind of done.
Are you still getting people coming into the shop?
Oh, God. Do you know what, Marcus? You would be amazed at the people that still come in, who come to Brighton and come specifically to the shops that they've seen on television.
Jeez.
It was phenomenal. There is no publicity like your own TV show on Channel 4.
Can you imagine?
You know, it's incredible. So, you know, my wife was right. You know, I at one point I went to see this music lawyer. And I, what do you think about this? I showed him a card. Do you think we should do this? And he was like, well, you know, you could go for this. You could get, you know, payment. You could get repeat money. Blah 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 blah. And I went back and I thought about it. I was like, you know what? I should be incredibly grateful that they want to make this show about us. And it's going to do the business a power of good. And it transformed the business.
Wow, that's
transformed
amazing.
the business. It was incredible.
What an amazing story. And someone you met through recovery
Someone
as well.
who I met through recovery, who's a lovely guy, and I still know him, and it literally came out of me sharing in a meeting about my business and my kids and my ex-partner and my wife working together, and
that's interesting.
And the dynamics about that.
How does that work then?
Well, it can be.
So your ex-wife and your, so is it
the mother of my kids and my wife work in the same business.
Oh, nice.
So nice. It's had its moments, and but they loved that idea of that, and the potential friction between those two. And my son, I was trying to get my son involved in the business, and my daughter, who didn't want to know. My daughter was about to go to university to study law. She was like, didn't want to know.
I don't want to be in it, Dad.
And she is now a trainee lawyer in London. She did all of that. And so, you have a thing where it's myself and the director every day would meet and discuss what we were kind of going to try to film every day. So it's a kind of like a formulated reality.
Yeah.
We had some ideas. My son never knew what was going to happen because at the end of the day, we're not actors.
No.
No one is professionally trained actors. We're people that are just normal people in this business. So the reactions that we were trying to get, particularly from the staff members and my son particularly, we wanted it to be natural,
genuine. Yeah.
So, but I would know. I would chat to the director and I go, look, what about this? Should we do this with him? Should we do that with him? And he'd come into work, bless him, right, get his microphone on, and I'd go, Taz, right, I've got some new products I want to show you. Have you?
I remember that bit.
And I'd have this box of stuff
and he's
pull
just
it out, and he would be like looking at me with this blank stare, like, Dad, what are you? And the camera was like on him like that. So he's like, Dad, what are you doing to me? And so that was really some of the golden spots. And we had the guy that brought the doll as well, who was incredible. The sex doll that he came in and bought that we delivered to his house, and so we had some. We were very fortunate to have the people that did get involved in that filming of that. Because the trouble was, because they said to me, "Well, we'll just have some of your, we'll get customers, coming in buying stuff." I was like, what? Customers don't want to be on TV when they're buying a butt plug. Really, it's not the sort of thing. But then they had the production girl there, Molly, at the time. Particularly in the Lush shop, we have signs on the window saying filming is in progress to let people know what they were walking into. Some people did want to tell me, I'm cool about it. Other people were like, absolutely no way are you going to put me on television buying this. But a lot of people were really willing to. But then it all got boiled down to 40-something minutes with the commercial break. So all those hours and hours of filming that some of them were incredible, that they were going to use in the second episode. But then lockdown happened, and it kind of ended there.
But it was still amazing, though. What an amazing experience for you, right?
An amazing experience for us, And funny enough, one of the funniest thing was that they said to me when the show was going out live for the first time, the press department called me up and they went, this is going out on Tuesday night, whenever it was. Can you just, don't go on social media. When it goes on when it's actually being aired. Don't go on Twitter, whatever you do, because there's some trolls out there.
Oh, right.
Just be mindful of that. Do not go on Twitter when the show goes out tonight. Of course, what do? We're all on Twitter. It's like we're all on Twitter watching the remarks of people, saying, because they have the hashtag.
Oh, right.
They have the hashtag. That's why they have it in the commercial breaks. Hashtag a very British sex shop. So we were on it, and it just started. And some of it was quite funny. Some of it was quite personally attacking me about the fact that how could this man want to get his children involved in this disgusting business? He should be ashamed of himself and all that sort of thing, which I didn't care. Didn't bother. My kids didn't like it at all. My daughter was like, Daddy, they're saying all this stuff about you. I went, don't worry about it. There's no such thing as bad publicity. Let them say whatever they want to say. And they said, please don't answer or respond. Don't get drawn into it. But we did. And but what we did is when someone made a really unpleasant comment, we'd we'd just post a funny meme. In response to them. And so we had a bit of fun with it actually at the end of the day. So, but it was quite ruthless.
Wow, I can't imagine what that's like, because you're also giving up quite a lot of your anonymity for a period.
Absolutely.
Probably recognised anywhere in the country.
Absolutely. And it was like, and that was quite a weird thing as well, getting recognised. But I've seen Are you in that?
Yeah.
Was in that
You're
show
that
with
sex
your-
shop lad
that
guy,
sex shop
ain't
bloke, aren't you? That's kind of that's gone now.
Yeah,
That doesn't exist anymore. But it was for you. You put yourself on offer when you do something like. I can't imagine what it would be like to be on national television on a regular basis with social media and the way people go for you.
Yeah.
I mean, you have
especially
to be,
if you're going through a bad time with abuse.
you have to
issues.
You have to be very thick-skinned, or just not look at it.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what they must do. Because it's just so personal. It's so personal, and they're, you know, and it's funny because on the Twitter accounts, I'd go on to the people who had made that comment, and they got like 3 followers.
Yeah,
You know,
they're just nobody.
they're just someone sat there like having a go at something, and then you look at other things, and they're doing it with all shows. They're having a go at everyone, and, you know. They're just trolls, aren't they?
Yeah, there's loads out there.
There's loads out there.
So, wow, what an interesting life you've had, man. And, you know, and now you've moved into a different type of business.
We have.
Which is dungeons.
Sex dungeons.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow.
So basically, what happened was a very dear friend of mine, Kula, who was a Brighton dominatrix.
Yeah.
She opened.
She was mean, wasn't she? Sorry,
She was a hardcore dom. She was a really hardcore dom. She was a beautiful woman, but she was a hardcore dom. And she opened up her dungeon called Brighton Dungeon the same year I opened Taboo Shop 20 years ago.
Wow.
And so we ran parallel together. And with her business and my business, and I supplied her a lot of the equipment, and, you know, I got to know her very well. And so she was doing her business, I was doing my business. About 4 or 5 years ago, she unfortunately had a heart attack and died.
Oh, no.
And I knew her son quite well, and suddenly she died, and they had this fully equipped dungeon in Brighton, and he came to me and said, what am I going to do with this space? And I was like, I don't know, because in fact, you know, it did generate quite a lot of money for Kula and her family, but, you know, people went down. She had clients. She had professional, you know, she was a professional dominatrix.
Yeah.
So,
and people, it's not necessarily a smutty thing, is it?
It's not
people think a smutty thing. People think it's not like a brothel.
No.
Dungeon is a totally different thing.
Totally different thing.
Yeah.
So she was down. She saw clients in her dungeon. So she generated a lot of money. But they came there to see her.
Yeah.
They didn't come to the dungeon.
No.
They came to that dungeon because she happened to own it, and that was where she worked. So, you know, take her out of that space.
Yeah.
It's just a basement with a spanking bench and some equipment, and they didn't know what to do with it. So I took it from them. I bought it from them.
Wow.
And we refurbished quite a bit of it, and decided to open up a hireable BDSM play space.
Wow.
Where people could come. And it wasn't the first to do that. There were a couple around the country who'd already done similar things. And I was like, but there was nothing in Brighton like it.
So it's like soft play for kids, but it's hard play for adults.
What a great analogy. I might use that on the website.
Yeah.
Soft play for kids, hard play for adults.
Yeah, I like
it's like that.
Yeah.
It's like that. So, but it's a fully equipped dungeon. It's a beautiful boudoir bedroom, lovely bathroom, medical room. So if you're interested, and also the thing about the whole kink BDSM area has really increased over the last 10 years or so. You know, and you heard about the 50 Shades of Grey thing. Yawn. I know that it's such a yawn now, but in fact, when that 50 Shades of Grey book came out, it was transformative for people to experiment within that field of a bit of spanking, being tied up. And funny enough, in our shops, it was quite, in the shops, we really noticed it because women were reading this book, 50 Shades of Grey, and there were certain items that he used, implements that he used in the book, and they would send their husbands to go to the local sex shop with a little shopping list. It was a blindfold, a paddle, these love eggs in the book. And literally, these guys would come into the shop, right? Never been in a sex shop in their life. And they'd go, one of you can help me. And I'd go, 50 Shades of Grey. And they go, yeah. How did you know? Because they'd go do this with their finger, make a little circle, which meant the eggs.
Oh, the
love
eggs.
Eggs. They go, I'm looking. We go, 50 Shades of Grey. Yeah. And do you know what? When that book came out, those eggs, no one could get, no wholesaler in the UK could get, everyone sold out of them.
Wow.
But it opened up this thing about spanking
and
being tied up. And so women were like, I quite fancy that.
I think a lot of women quite enjoy that.
Now, before that happened, it was all a bit of that's pervert. So it's a pervert thing.
It's not missionary.
It's too kinky. It's too kinky. Yeah. But that kind of opened it up. And, and fast forward now, we sell more of that kind of product, cuffs, collars, spanking, floggers, blindfolds. We sell more of that stuff than we do anything else.
More than your traditional dildos, probably.
Absolutely. Yeah. The kink products sell hugely for us.
Wow.
But also, so with the dungeon, so we're like, right, well, if we fully equipped this space where, because some of the stuff is quite expensive.
Yeah.
If you're not quite sure if there's something you're going to like or not, it's quite an investment to make to find out you don't like it.
Yeah, like a cross or a bench or something.
Or like even like the floggers or the paddles, they're not cheap, so it's like.
So it's fully equipped, the dungeon?
Fully equipped.
It's got all of that stuff.
Everything. It's got everything in it.
Wow.
So you can rent it by the hour during the day. You can rent it at a minimum of 2 hours, or you can stay overnight. So for couples, and it's couples that use it. Yeah. Couples come down, they come down for the night, and they can play around and see if they like it.
Wow.
And some of them also we give discount vouchers to come into the shop and buy stuff as well. And, they'll come into the shop and go, do you sell any floggers? And, it just opens up a complete new door for them within their sex lives. Huh. So we decided to open Brighton Dungeon, and it's been really successful. And now we have 3 of them.
Wow.
There are 3 Brighton Dungeons. There's Brighton Dungeon, there's Hidden Dungeon, and there's the Boutique. Yeah. And so there are 3 different individual BDSM play spaces.
Do they have different themes?
One of them has a slightly different thing. They're all kind of quite similar. I'm really proud of what we've done with them. They look amazing. And, we're on platforms like Airbnb and Booking.com.
Oh, wow.
And on our own website. So, because then ultimately, it's just bits of furniture.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's just bits
but
of
it's just
furniture.
The concept. To me, I mean, it's such a brilliant idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be able to stay the night if you want or just have a play.
Yeah.
It's like great. Because a lot of couples, want to spice it up.
And you want to give it a little go to see if you like it. Some people come down there and they stay the night, and we can see kind of because anything you use, you have to put in a box so it can get cleaned and hygiene and stuff. Sometimes we'll go down and there'll be like one thing because they've had a little go and they're kind of like not into it, But there's mirrored ceilings in the bedroom, so there's lots of other things you can do as well. Other times you can go in there and the box is full. They've tried every single thing they can lay their hands on. So it's people just stepping into it. And then we have lots of people come down regularly to stay with us.
Do you have any like professional dominatrix that use it?
I believe so. I mean, sometimes people rent it during the day. That might be a pro dom, or it might be you with your partner, or it might be someone with someone else's partner who knows what they're doing. We don't see them.
And you don't care.
We don't. As long as they're adults and they go in and they self-check in and they check out. They've got a key box and they go in.
So it's very discreet.
Very discreet.
Wow.
So we don't see who goes in, we don't see who goes out.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think maybe some of the afternoon bookings might be. You know what? I mean, if you're hooking up with someone and you want to have like afternoon sex with someone, it's better than going to a travel lodge.
Oh, of course.
It's like you might as well rent that for 3 hours and have all that stuff there than rent a travel lodge overnight that you're only going to go there for 3 hours and leave ananyway.
Yeah.
And you've got all that stuff to play with as well. It's a really sexy atmosphere in there.
I'll have to go and have a look. Just I'm
Marcus,
curious.
You're there all the time. What are you talking about? Making out on a show that you've never been down there.
Very true.
I see Marcus Darkus, 3 hour booking.
Who's Marcus Darkus? I don't know. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. So what do you see kind of going forward? Like, have you reached a point in business now where you're not really bothered about taking on more things?
I think we're dungeon wise. I think we're done.
Yeah.
Next year we have. I've been building a social media platform for quite a few years. So we're launching a platform called SAFEWORD, which is a kink Facebook. Basically, Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah.
So because what happens is with people within the kink community, Facebook and Meta as a company do not like anything to do with sex.
No.
So you've got really good people within the kink scene who have their accounts shadow banned. I don't know if you know what shadow banning is.
No,
so shadow banning is if you've got an Instagram account and you're posting stuff about sex.
Yeah.
I'm talking about porn here. I'm just talking about general set, or someone's dressed in some latex or something like that. What Meta do is they shadow ban that account. It gets flagged up and they shadow ban it. You don't know it's been shadow banned. But what happens is you're posting away and you're thinking, oh, this is going out to the social media world. And in fact, it's not.
Really?
It's bad. It's held back. So
it's just
the reach isn't there.
You've been ring-fenced, basically.
You've been ring-fenced. Yeah. So a lot of accounts get shadow banned or they get taken down completely. So some years ago, I was posting adverts, local sponsored adverts on Facebook for our shops in Brighton. And this was in 2017. This is how long this project has been going on for, right? Yeah. And it's still not launched. It launches next year, but it's been a long time. I was in my shop and I decided to post a local sponsored ad on Facebook for lust. Yeah. Which I've been doing for many months. I put my ad in, I sent the ad in, sent payment, went off and did some stuff. I went back and it said, your ad hasn't been approved. So what's that about? Yeah. Tried it again. Your ad hasn't been approved. So basically they just banned anything to do with adults. So, and this is, we're talking about sex shops here. Yeah. We're not talking about cam sites or porn sites. We're talking about shops selling sex toys.
To adults,
They banned it. And it was a big blanket ban. And it came from Facebook trying to stop the cam girls, the porn. I get it. I get what they were trying to do. But unfortunately, the filter that they put on was just too dense. Yeah. There was no, they didn't allow for Ann Summers, for instance, or anything like that. So at that point I thought, well, this is ridiculous. So I need to build my own social media platform for adult. And so the journey started in 2017. It's been a very, very long time coming, but we're launching SafeWord in next year, and that will be a kink safe space for people to be able to post, share, follow, like events, blog, do all that stuff without the fear of being shadow banned or blocked.
Well, I'm quite interested in that because I work in the technical side, so I'll definitely be picking your brain.
I might be picking your brain.
Well, we should pick each other's brain.
But it started in 2017, so there's been quite a lot of time and money invested in it, and we had a very bumpy journey within tech. Yeah, I was really not tech savvy. I'm a bricks and mortar guy. We do some online sales for our businesses, but that's predominantly there's a couple of big companies out there that do that, and it's a very difficult competitive market.
Launching a platform is difficult, especially a social media.
It is, especially and we've got all that tech we've built. It's Instagram.
So you've invested in
heavily, and but what happened was we were halfway through the build, and a digital agency went bankrupt on us, and they had a lot of our money. And we managed to salvage a lot of the site that had been built. And we went out to Europe to find other coders. And it's just been going on and on and on. But we are 99% there. And we will launch it next year. So safeword.co.uk will be launched next year. And that's my main focus for 2025.
I like that. That's great progress.
And it's also a marketplace. Yeah. So we also want people, the smaller companies, to be able to sell their products to our users as well. So if you imagine it's like Facebook and Etsy.
Yeah, and Love Honey.
And don't mention that word. Love Honey's a fantastic company.
Yeah. Their products are shit though.
But the
edible knickers gave me indigestion.
They do, don't they? They do edible anuses as well. Have you seen the chocolate edible anuses?
No, I passed on them.
Yeah, they taste like shit. Don't get them.
Like that. No. But you've got an internet in frontage to the shop, I suppose.
Yeah, we do. We have lust.co.uk and taboo.co.uk. We find that we do sales from it. Yeah. It's not a massive part of our business. We find that people generally go online before they come into the shop.
Right.
So they check us out online. So if they're coming into Brighton on the train or on the M25. And they're going, should we go sex toy shopping? And they'll Google us, and we find that when people walk in, they've got the website on their phone
there already,
and they've already kind of chosen what they want to buy, kind of. So it's more of a funnel into the shop. We do some online sales, but the online sex toy business is hugely competitive. With Amazon, who are the biggest.
Really?
They are the biggest. Do you know what? Toys? Amazon are the biggest. They're bigger than Love Honey.
Wow.
They're bigger than Amazon sell more sex toys worldwide than any other company.
Wow, I didn't know
And
that.
if you look, it'll go, sold by Amazon. And what they do is that Amazon, they're a hell of a company, Amazon, in many different ways. But what they will do, Amazon, is they will see a company on Amazon selling a product.
Yeah.
Let's say it's a bullet vibrator, okay? They'll see that. They'll see how much they're selling. They'll see what they're selling it for. And then Amazon will then go themselves to a company in China, source that product, bring it in, and sell it themselves.
So, same as Sainsbury's.
They'll
There's
do
a
it
peanut
themselves.
butter that's popular. They'll do their own
They'll
version.
do their own version.
For a quid off.
So Amazon are the biggest online sex toy company in the world. And the reason why that is, it is without a doubt the best plain packaging you could ever get. Want to get a sex toy delivered in.
It's just box.
You get an Amazon box. It could be dog food, toothpaste, or a butt plug. No one's going to know. So for the discreet packaging, it is the best discreet packaging in the world. So it's a highly competitive business selling sex toys online. I see many people pour lots of money into new startups to do that, and I just wish them well, because it's like, for me, when we looked at going into it heavily and investing into it, I had one digital agency say to me, if you're going to go into this, it's like going into an armed fight with a penknife or something. It was like, you're going to get taken out so quickly unless you can, Love Honey, an incredible company, a phenomenal company. They buy every single bit of their traffic on advertising on Google. They go pay per click advertising. They outbid every single person.
Wow.
Or you put that word in sex toy, you're going to see Love Honey come at the top of that.
And that doesn't
search.
come for free.
That don't come for free. So they outbid everyone. They have an incredible budget. You can't compete with them. But it'll be interesting to see with the development of AI and search how this will change. I think that might have some impact on that, but we will see.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Well, Tim, I think I've asked you everything I can think of asking you, and I'm just really glad you came down and
thank you, Marcus.
Shared time with us.
It's been an
mate.
absolute pleasure.
Are you sure?
Oh God, yeah.
Give us a hug then.
I've loved it. You're an absolute star.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for asking me to come down.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure. Mate.